Just by way of introduction, set the scene a little bit from our side, from the European Union side. South Africa, but of course also KwaZulu-Natal. As you know, the European Union it's not an old organization. I also can't say it's a new organization, but it built itself up after the Second World War in Europe, 1940, 1945. So around the time we had in South Africa the 1948 elections, which, as you all know, after that things started to move in the wrong way. In Europe, we like to think that around that time we gradually started to move in the right way, because after 2 world wars we decided, let's not have a 3rd world war, let us become friends. We were not really friends, and in many ways the 28 member states that we have today are still not friends, but we are united in this European Union, as Africa is united in the African Union. Africa has the ideal of one united Africa, and of course we are all human beings, so we have the ideal of one united Europe. But it's not easy in Africa, and I can tell you it's not easy in Europe either. Now, what we have done is, since 1950, we have gradually developed, and in fact today, here in Durban, tonight, and I hope that many of you will be able to come there, we celebrate Europe Day, which is officially the 9th of May. That is when things started in 1950 to move. Now, what we have done gradually, we like to operate externally as a bloc of 28 countries. So it goes from Ireland to Poland, from Finland to Greece. It are 28. Many of them traditional European countries that you know, like the UK, France, Germany, but many of them also newer accessions to the European Union, like Poland, like the Czech Republic, like Bulgaria or Romania, countries which used to be under the Russian influence and are now, the Soviet, I should say, influence, and are now free democracies in the European Union. But it means it is a rather diverse group. Now, our relations with South Africa started in 1992, and then in 1994 we established the European Embassy, which I'm very proud to lead. We call it a delegation. It is in Pretoria, but we operate nationally. Now, that delegation takes those things that the individual member states have pushed up to the European Union. So it is trade, it is many aspects of politics, it's many aspects of development cooperation. And with South Africa, we have a very privileged relationship in the sense that we have 10 strategic partners worldwide that are the BRICS countries, including South Africa, the US, Canada, Mexico, Australia, South Korea, let's say the major players. And South Africa is the only country on the continent with which we have that strategic partnership. Which means that we do see South Africa not just as a country, far away in Africa. It is a country with which we discuss everything. UN reform, climate change, global development, everything. Now, to focus on the relations between South Africa and the EU itself, there are a number of pillars. Obviously, in the first place, political cooperation. What can we do worldwide? What can we do on the African continent together? To give you an example, Burundi's situation at the moment, extremely difficult. South Africa, almost 20 years of presence, including military presence on the ground. We are now working together to see if we can prevent another civil war in Burundi. Zimbabwe, we have worked a lot on together. Swaziland, Lesotho, Madagascar, just examples. Then, of course, we have our economic relations, trade and investment. As a bloc, the European Union is still by far the largest trading partner of South Africa. And then we have development cooperation in the broad sense. Now, South Africa, as you understand, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't need European money to build roads, ports, airports. But it needs the combination, it wants, I should say, it wants, it's not for us to say it needs, it wants a combination of a bit of money and expertise to get the road away from apartheid further completed. South Africa, we all know, is still carving its way out of the past. I started my working life in 78, 82 in Lesotho at the National University. I was sitting there safe in Maseru between Bloemfontein and Durban, and we saw all these developments happening around us. Now, 2050, more than 30 years later, a lot has been achieved, but we all know, and you know it even better than us in Pretoria, that many things still have to happen. So we are closely working with the government in education, in employment and skills, and in the third place in assisting the government to increase its record of service delivery. That are our three areas: education, skills and employment, and delivery, which we call the capable state. And for us, and the government agrees, part of the capable state is very much a thriving civil society. And I think it's very thriving if I look around me here. But a civil society just doesn't exist like that. You know it again better than we do. Now, in the past, I think civil society was maybe overfunded from abroad. I'm happy to admit that. The days, most of you are quite recent, were born quite recently, but some of you may remember the days of the Kagiso Trust. In those days, possibly, civil society was too dependent on foreign submissions. Today, I think the picture is more balanced, but we also see from Pretoria that many civil society organizations are struggling. So, in close cooperation and consultation with the government, but also a little bit on our own steam, we have organized the Civil Society Roadmap, which is intended to make our support to civil society as effective and as open and as productive as possible. And Christophe, who speaks after me, will concentrate on the further development of that roadmap. But what I would like to underline once more, before I give the floor to Christophe, that your role as civil society is very much part of this wider support that we give to South Africa. And our support is not, look, this is how we did it in Europe, it's all great, copy it. Because we are very critical of developments in Europe ourselves. It's not just the Greek crisis, it's not just the threat of the UK maybe leaving the European Union. There are many issues that we still have to address within Europe, including, I come back on that in a moment, xenophobia. The European Union is very much work in progress. It is a building that is, you know, parts of it are quite great, but part of it are still have to be developed further. And I think it's very important for Africa to also understand that yes, at the one hand, conditions in Europe are you know, not too bad, but there are still many problems. And what I also would like to say, 70 years ago, in 1945, Europe was completely destroyed. My own country, which happens to be the Netherlands, cities like Rotterdam, Schiphol Airport, they didn't exist, they were completely bogged down. And after 20 years, much was rebuilt, and now 70 years later, I think we live in peace. I'm not saying that we all live in prosperity, because Europe has now very poor spots as well. But what we are saying also to Africa, we were in 1945, it's hard to understand. Germany was flat, Netherlands was flat, a large part of the UK, France, destroyed. So millions and millions of people were killed, and we overcame it with a lot of trouble, with a lot of effort. And we also say to some of the poorer African countries like Burundi, the Central African Republic, you know, don't give up. In 1 or 2 generations you can do it. We've seen it in Europe. Of course, you need human resources. You need political will. I mean, it doesn't come like that. But just as a model to compare, we've made many mistakes, and what we like to share with Africa is also the mistakes we made. We are all human beings. You know, we all tend to make the same mistakes. We all have the same strong and many weak points. And the big trick of politicians is to neutralize these weak points. Just one word on xenophobia. The European Union, of course, we have followed in great detail what happened. And I would like to say that, like many of you, of course, we are disappointed and shocked. But at the same time, we should realize that it is not at all an exclusive South African problem. I mean, also in Europe, we have many countries where deep things still happen. I admit people are not killed, that is true. But well, and sometimes they are, but not at a large scale. But some of these problems we have as well. We also have still a lot of homophobia in the European Union. We have xenophobia, we have homophobia. And of course, as Europe, we are also very concerned about the large numbers of people that have died over the past month on the Mediterranean. We realize these people are in a horrible situation in their home countries. They come now by the hundreds of thousands to Europe. And of course, we have to make more action to save them from the seas. There is no doubt about it. At the same time, of course, many of these people realize once that they are in Europe that is not the promised land, that is not great. And the interesting thing is, we have the African continent, the beautiful African continent. To the north we have Europe, to the south we have South Africa, and many people move north to Europe, move south to South Africa. And is it a solution? That is some of the things that we have to discuss also in this wider context. President Zuma, of course, has hit back at his African fellow president, saying, you know, you have to improve conditions in your countries. It's not that easy as that. It's a long discussion. But what I want to say on xenophobia is, in the first place, we need to discuss this also here, and we will continue to do that in a profound way. The South African government is facing problems that we are also facing in Europe, and in one way or another, with other African governments, the European government, the South African government, we have to work on this issue. We have to work on it at a grassroots level, in the communities, but we also have to improve our policies, and we jointly need to support African countries where people want to go, to improve the political climate, to improve the space for the opposition, and to improve economic conditions. But this is not going to be done in a couple of years. It takes 1 or 2 generations. So in the meantime, we will have many challenges to administer. This is a little bit of the background. I went a bit left and right, because I know there are many issues that we have to discuss here today. I think it's now time to become more focused on the objective of this meeting, on our roadmap for civil society, and then on your input. But can I say once more, on behalf of my whole team, that we are absolutely delighted to see so many people of you here. I sense, looking, because I can see you all, I can see that there is a lot of experience amongst you. There is experience, there is youthful energy. I see all the shades of expertise here. And I'm also very, very pleased that this little meeting that the two of us had, and you know, you have these meetings in life, but that it resulted in this, you know. Of course, it was not just our meeting, many things followed after that, but you know, sometimes you have to start very small. The Chinese say that every long journey starts with a single step, and we did it, and I'm very happy to be here. Christophe, I think, if I understood well, but maybe we have to go through the Master of Ceremonies, you know, otherwise Christophe, I think you will take over now. Can I ask your applause for Christophe, who is really the expert on civil society?